Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the P-Lot Podcast. I don't know what happened there at the beginning. I glitched out for a second, and then
Yeah.
it cut to the countdown. But yeah, we're back. We're the P-Lot Podcast. John here, joined once again by the main man himself, Michael Angelillo. Michael, how are we feeling?
We're feeling good. We are feeling we're
You really
feeling
digging this
good.
spring weather we're having?
Yeah, the weather is about as bad as it can be. Um, just cold, man. It is just cold. But baseball is in full swing, and it's pretty much we're buckling down for the long haul of the baseball season, and that is one of my favorite times of the year. So very excited.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about Phillies today, obviously, like
Hmm.
we usually do during the season. And we also have some NFL talk. We're going to talk about the draft. We're not doing like a draft breakdown. I think I think next week we should look at the Eagles' top 30 visits and maybe look into that a little bit more before we do the next show to kind of talk about possibly who we think they're going to take, because the Eagles, when they do their top 30 visits, pretty much everyone they bring in for a top 30 visit gets drafted by them. It's
Yeah. And those hold weight. Like it's not even just the draft; they'll get guys from their top 30 visits well after the fact. You know, DTR was one of their top 30 visits. Kenyon Green was another one of their top 30 visits. Both of which off-season acquisitions for the Eagles this year, despite not being drafted by them. So yeah, top 30 visits from pretty much all teams, but the
I think
Eagles
Aziz
definitely.
Ojolari was once a top 30
He
visit.
was a top 30 visit. So a top 30 visit for the Eagles, and like you are kind of forever on their radar. Um, and Kenyon Green and Dorian Thompson Robinson kind of showed that no matter how much you may struggle at the NFL level, you are still on their radar. There is no, there's very few exceptions to their top 30 visit list on their interest in that player, whether it's now or in the future. So, yeah, definitely going to be something to tally up by the time it's all fully done. But that is for a later date. We'll just be getting
That
on
is for a
some.
later date. How so? I think we should start off talking about the I would say the biggest news in sports yesterday. It's the Penguins, the Rangers, and the Bruins all missing the playoffs.
Listen,
Oh,
that is
that's
a
not what that's
nice consolation prize, I have to say. The first time ever in NHL history that the New York Rangers, Boston Bruins, and Pittsburgh Penguins have all missed the playoffs. It's something that is pretty crazy. It makes sense, I
Well,
guess,
I'm sure
but
Gary Bettman is.
dude, Gary Bettman's pissed because you look at the markets they're missing out on in the playoffs this year. The biggest one you have is, I guess, Los Angeles, but that's still LA hockey. It can only go so far. And then your next one is like Toronto, but again, that's Canada. But besides that, no New York teams, both the Rangers and the Islanders, no Penguins, no Flyers, no Bruins. It's Boston, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia all out. No Chicago. Um, it's really like some smaller ish teams. You have some nice markets, but they're just not as big in hockey, like Dallas, for example. With them making it,
Vegas.
Vegas as well. Vegas is probably at this point like a pretty decent market for them, but it's still not like
It's
any
a
of the
new
other
market.
ones.
It's not like an original six team
No, and you have
or
like the
one of the big
semi
expansion
markets like
teams.
Minnesota, St. Louis is pushing to get in. Calgary, like Winnipeg's like your best team in the West. Like it's just a lot, man. It's tough. DC, with the
I mean,
Capitals.
I think. I mean, my gut says that we're going to see. I think we're going to finally see a Canadian team win the Stanley Cup since the
This year.
Montreal Canadiens. I think that's almost. I think it would be shocking if a Canadian team does not make the Stanley Cup. I'll put it to you that way.
You have a lot of there are a lot of Canadian teams that are going to be in the playoffs this year between Winnipeg, Toronto, um, Edmonton, Ottawa. and Montreal probably make it, and then you have like Calgary right on the outside. But yeah, you look at the Hurricanes, Florida, Tampa, teams that aren't like new to the playoff scene, but it's just not a big market. Really crazy stuff, but a good consolation prize as a Flyers fan, as the Flyers continue to ruin their tank. Yesterday's win moving them from the fourth worst team to the sixth worst team. So Flyers won 5 of 6, and that's just not good. Really, really hoping they just lose out from here on out. Michkov got to 60 points. That was like a nice little, I guess, goal. First Flyers rookie to hit 60 points since Michael Renberg. It would just be nice if they stopped winning, because it's getting out of hand here. You can't kill yourself too bad with draft positioning. But yeah, that's enough about hockey for the moment. John, why don't you lead us in with what you want to talk about?
Yeah. So, what actually was the biggest news in the sports world yesterday was, I would say, the first case of NIL in college sports gone wrong.
Like really wrong. It's already, you
Like,
can argue a
really
lot of
gone
it's
wrong.
wrong, but this is, yeah.
So, Tennessee's starting quarterback, Nico Imaleava, who a lot of people kind of had tabbed as a future first round pick in the NFL. So this isn't like a
It's not a
scrub
scrub.
QB. This is a SEC quarterback. Tennessee, he helped lead Tennessee to the college football playoff.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they got completely demolished by Ohio State, but still, as a freshman quarterback leading, his team
To the
to the
playoff.
college football playoff, even though statistically he didn't really play all that great. Let's be realistic here. It wasn't.
Regardless, he is in NIL waters because he basically is asking for a new contract in the way that the NFL players would be doing it. It's very comparable to, let's say, if Brock Purdy, after they went to the Super Bowl, said, you know what? I want a new contract and I don't plan on playing unless I get one. And everyone would have been like, you know what? That's fair. I don't think too many people. Do you hear that? I don't know if you can hear
I
that,
hear
but
wind.
no, that is a plane of some sort, I think. It's quite loud. Anyways, yeah, that would, if that happens in the NFL, which it happens all the time, people complain here and there, but it's really not out of the ordinary. This is your first real big look of college sports getting in, this time into college football. So he agreed to what, like a $2 million NIL
He was
deal,
making it had an escalator in it, so he was due to make $2.4 million from the University of Tennessee.
and he wants $4 million. And John said that his dad was getting involved, where
Right. So
dad wanted other schools.
his father was this off season was going around like calling other teams asking him if they were to pay X amount of dollars that his son would go play for their university.
Hmm.
I would say the most famous case of this happening was which got Cam Newton in hot water and Auburn, was
Hmm.
when Cam Newton's dad basically, the University of Florida basically paid Cam Newton's father for sorry, Auburn paid Cam Newton's father while he was at Florida to transfer
Hmm.
to Auburn.
Yeah. So that was like when things happened behind the scenes. Now everything's kind of front and center with NIL.
But the big thing is he's already signed it. It's not like before where you're committed and you can transfer out.
No, it's very, I don't know, it's very, very murky waters. And basically, And Tennessee has said that, like, no one's bigger than the team, and that he's not going to be the starting quarterback this year, and they're going to move on. So he's going to transfer out.
Apparently, a lot of his teammates were very upset at his
I know for sure, and I get
behavior.
that. But the big issue here, the big massive issue here, the largest elephant in the room is this is pretty much all the NCAA's fault, and they don't want to do anything to stop it at this point because one, they don't want to get in trouble as they flirted with in the past, with the whole amateur athletes thing, or are they really like they're basically professional athletes that just happen to be in college, but they run under the amateur athlete guys, and this is what you get. You want to give players a taste of the money, which I think is fair. I do think the origins of NIL were for the right thing. Creating the college football video game, bringing that back. That only went away because players weren't getting paid for having, you know, a quarterback number 2 that goes to Texas A&M that's actually Johnny Manziel, but we can't call him Johnny Manziel because, there's issues there. Okay. Um, players that want to sign autographs and make money off their signature on little footballs or on t-shirts or hats or whatever, not allowing players to do that. You get Reggie Bush and all the other nonsense that went along with that. Players like the kicker from the University of Central Florida, Destroying, where he had a YouTube channel on the side while he was in college, showcasing, day in the life NFL kicker, doing kicking challenges, and he was making money off of it. And the NCAA basically told him, you either keep the YouTube channel and you're like out of college football, or you have to delete your channel and you can continue to play. He chose to stay on YouTube because he didn't feel like he had a good chance of making the NFL. Regardless, the whole point of NIL is that you are supposed to, as a college athlete, make money on your own name, image, and likeness. And what that could mean is you're in an insurance commercial, you're in a commercial for, you know, any sort of food like McDonald's or Popeyes or something like that, or you're, Cooper,
Yeah, like Jeremiah
whatever
Smith,
that
who
commercial is.
is, the best receiver in college football.
Yeah,
Wants to
anything like
go
Cooper
make money
Flag was in a
signing
commercial.
autographs or doing commercials because he's Jeremiah Smith. He's
Right.
allowed to do that. But I think the way the NCAA has this set up, it's that the universities have to pay the players, and technically every player is entitled to NIL, not the stars, which I think that's probably to make it fair, I suppose.
I guess, but I mean, what you do is you open this can of worms where it becomes free agency. Instead of the bag of money showing up at your door from whatever university to recruit you to go there, now it's like all very public, out in the open. Like, oh, this top recruit was offered $600,000 to go to the University of Alabama, but he was offered $850,000 to go to, you know, Georgia, and he was offered $1 million to go to Michigan, and he's actually going to end up going to Ohio State, who offered him $750,000. Like, it's become mini NFL. It's become free agency essentially, where kids enter the transfer portal and they see what schools are going to be, intrigued in them and who's going to throw them the most money to come to their program, and they're going to go. And like you said, Nico's dad was going around basically shopping his kid. Like, okay, if Nico transferred here, how much money could you get him? And the number, I guess, became 4 million, and everyone, killing the quarterback for it. But I don't know. You tell me, if you were in college and like you were making a good amount of money, but you were offered, like, it's not that far fetched and is not the hardest in terms of accessibility to go get more millions of dollars. How are you, as a college kid, as a like 19 to 22-year old, going to not do that? How am I going to, even relating it to basketball? If I go to Murray State, how am I, as a 20-year-old, not going to go take the $700,000 to go transfer to Kentucky or to go transfer to, Auburn, whatever? If I'm in college football and I'm Nico and I'm making 2 million, but I'm going to be offered 4 million to go to
Well, I
Florida
don't
State.
I don't think the issue here is like you just alluded to, is that they're signing contracts, and
essentially, yeah.
he's not. It technically, he's not living up to the contract that he signed, and I don't know. They're not unionized. That's the issue.
They're not unionized because every time that they have tried to unionize, the NCAA like gets super aggressive with it because if they unionize, there's a lot of issues that the NCAA is going to face in terms of amateur athletes, and you know,
Correct, and that's why like the Tennessee was taking the stance of screw you, dude. Like, oh, you
yeah,
want to fine, you want to go somewhere else, go ahead, but you're not going to play for us next year and then bounce to go get your 4 million.
no,
You know,
and I think people forget too. Another reason NIL sort of picked up as well was like it's almost like an insurance policy. Like not every coach is going to be like Deion Sanders, where he told all his players, if you were expected to be drafted and you are going to play in the bowl game this year or whatever, I will cover like X amount of money where you're like expected to get drafted, basically. Like Dion out of his own pocket was going to pay the player if something happened and they got hurt and did not get drafted where they were supposed to because of it. Like he offered them personally that insurance policy. And that's really cool on Dion's part. Not a lot of coaches or schools are doing that. So, you know, this is really heightened over the more recent years, but a lot of players, they value potentially getting injured before their draft and killing their draft stock because of it. That's why you get kids sitting out in bowl games, sitting out in the playoff, whatever that may be. NIL was a way to kind of give and encourage some of that insurance policy where it's like, okay, if you're making a couple $1,000,000 for your, each year, the 3 years you're in college and the NFL draft's rolling around, you have some money to maybe not, make you so scared to go out there and perform and play on the big stage, the big TV deals and all that stuff. Because what does NCAA want? They want as many people watching as possible. They want people to be paying for the sponsorships, all that sort of stuff. And if you're like going to consistently keep losing the top talent in college football or college basketball from playing in these sort of games and environment, you're going to get,
yeah, like Michael, I can
you're going to get hit in
honestly
the
see
pockets.
it's going to get, I think, even murkier because if you think about it, like your Murray, like let's say, all right, we'll stick with college football.
Mm-hmm.
Let's suppose Boise State. I'm just gonna say Boise State because they're not like a major school.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say Ashton Genty did what he did this year as a sophomore,
Right.
and Alabama wanted to sign Ashton Genty. Well,
Essentially.
normally in college, no, in the NFL, when you lose players in free agency, you get compensatory picks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you're signing a player away, let's say he's under an NIL deal, like you already agreed to an NIL contract, right? What if, like, should Alabama compensate Boise State for basically helping develop Ashton Genty, giving him the platform to play and
Right.
then become a
Yeah.
big name? How's that
Mm-hmm.
really fair? Because we have competitive balance in the NFL, and if they want college football to be NFL light, well, you kind of need that competitive balance as well. Like it's sort of like these schools, like you might have some schools just be like, it's not really like they're donors. Like where the schools going to tell their donors from now on? You need to donate more money to us so we can keep these players.
Well, that's because that's what it is. That's most of the NIL fund is from like the boosters and stuff like that. Like that's who's
And
footing
what
the bill
about the
most of
state
the time.
colleges? Like what? Like my taxes need to go up. My Pennsylvania taxes need to go up so Penn State can pay to get better players. That's
Listen,
absurd.
man.
I don't give a rat's ass about Penn State, Michael. I'm
No, neither
sorry.
do I. No, neither do I. And this is what listen, this is what you get. It's the NCAA creates a problem every so often and they kind of just put their head in the sand hoping it goes away until it really gets too bad. And this might be the first step in the football world of it getting too bad. We're already seeing in the basketball world, with March, sadness, as people were calling it, as it was one of the
Well, I have a
chalkiest.
take on that too, and I think this is what the NCAA wants. The NCAA, like everyone talks about the first couple weeks of March Madness being the best, and then the following games are usually blowouts or mismatches because you have a Cinderella team
Right.
go against like Florida in like the Final Four, and then Florida wins
No,
by
and you get rolled.
35
No, for
points.
sure. Yeah.
That's why people were bitching about the college football playoff. They're like, why the hell is Notre Dame in this? Or why
Right.
is
No, for sure. And you look at you're not wrong because
I mean this past
this Final
Final
Four.
Four, this past Final Four was probably one of the most exciting Final Fours that I could ever remembered.
Yeah, and that's just tough though because listen, a lot of the appeal March Madness of those first couple weekends, you get some upsets, and you were seeing nothing. A lot of it went really, really chalk, and what are you going to do? We will see what the NCAA
I
does,
will
but
say this: the memes about Nico Imaleava is kind of funny. It's
yeah,
because like here's the thing though. Like I have one last thing I just want to talk about with Nico Imaleava kind of holding up Tennessee for money.
hmm
If Nico Imaleava was like a Heisman candidate, like an actual Heisman candidate from last year, and he was doing this, don't you think Tennessee would have given him the $4 million?
I was just about to say if Nico was a top, finalist in the Heisman and was really, really killing it, without a doubt in my mind, they would have paid up without any questions asked.
Like if this was Arch Manning, who listen
Yeah.
wasn't a Heisman finalist, but I think he is the odds-on favorite to win the Heisman this year. If
hmm
we check the duel, he probably is with like Jeremiah Smith,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
just I'm just saying, dude. Like
hmm
that's what it kind of comes. It's like a player like that's like mid holds out in the NFL, and he's like, oh, he's holding out, and you're just like laughing. You're like, all right, well, have fun doing that. Like
Yeah.
that's the thing. Like if you're mid, you can't hold out.
No, you lose a lot of your little steam there for sure. But anyways, I guess that's enough of the
I think we should transition this. So let's talk Flyers and we'll talk football, NFL football. So
okay.
yeah, you alluded to it earlier. The Flyers are basically kind of ruining the tank, and funny that we would go on our shows like and complain about Torts, and now that terrorist Torts is gone, you hit your 60-point prediction for Michkov.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
that should have been free,
That
man.
was a
It should have
sweat.
been
That was a
should have
sweat,
hit
a
by it
massive
should have hit by
sweat.
February. Should have hit by February. But
But
yeah.
now, so I guess the question with this Flyers team is are they really just like a mid team that had a horrible coach and now like this is kind of who they are? And when I say mid, I mean like, they might finish they probably should have finished like 5 points out of a playoff spot
hmm
as opposed to at one point being like the fourth worst team in the league.
Yeah. It's just I really do think I don't think the players were ready, for example, to be like a fringe playoff team this year. I don't know. I wasn't fully all in on that. However, the players I think are a little more intriguing than we thought, and it's the coach that was doing a lot to hold him back. Like Tyson Forster has been on an obscene heater at the moment. It's been he had like
You
he
saw
had
it near the end of last year with Tyson that he was playing really well and you thought that he could maybe be a 30 goal guy.
Yeah, and he had all of a sudden he went from having 18 goals in the end of March, and now he's up to 24 goals. It's truly, he's got 6 goals since April started, and it's just not many games. Um, obviously Michkov went on a nice heater once he got opened up. You're just seeing Bobby Brink looking pretty good and more aggressive, Cam York looking aggressive and good, and it's just there's there's a lot of players that become significantly more exciting and intriguing if they get a better coach, a more offensive-minded coach, someone that is actually gonna let their skill shine through and work their scheme around their skill as opposed to trying to fit, a round peg into a square hole. Looking at, trying to make this team a gritty, grindy defensive team when they have enough guys that are not top end offensive talent, but enough offensive talent to like not be as egregious as they've been scoring as much, over the years, especially on the power play and whatnot. So, you get a center or two, especially like a number one center, and then you get like an offensive coach, and all of a sudden this team can flirt with actually being good. Another year of Michkov, especially if he's fully off the leash, like, he's going to finish with a little more than 60 points, I'm sure, by the end of the season. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets close to like 90 next year, if they really kind of just let him go. Like they don't put any restrictions, just go do your thing, especially you pair him with a better center. I think he's really going to be able to do some damage. And, you look at other guys that have skill, you're going to just have a more positive outlook, I think, on the whole Flyers thing if you have a better coach. It's really damning to me that a coach has that much negative impact. We can see it in football. We saw it in basketball pretty evidently. And, you just kind of feel like with hockey, it's not as like strong, but you're seeing it when a coach is really not relating to his players, not on the same level with his players,
Well,
how
it's,
bad it
you
can
mentioned
be.
bringing in players. I mean, no one was going to come here with Torch as the head coach because he's so universally disliked around the
He is
league.
disliked, yeah.
Now, I do think, though, like I have like I'm pulling up Tankathon right now,
Yeah, man, they're sixth.
and uh, they're 2 points ahead of Boston, but Boston has two more games to play. Seattle only has one game left to play.
The Flyers
And
have three.
if the Flyers lose out, and then
You got to
yeah,
hope the Bruins
well,
win
the
twice.
Flyers, if they
Like,
win out, the Flyers could theoretically pick like ninth. Like it would
I
be.
know it's a disaster right
And I
now.
got to be honest, Michael. There's absolutely no way in hell, like whoever, I'm gonna sim Tankathon here. They're picking sixth again. There is no way that Seattle would trade Misa the rights to draft Misa to the Flyers if they offered their two first round picks. There
I
is
did
no way in hell that would
I
happen.
did two spins, and the second spin, the Flyers got one.
Oh
So,
well, I'm gonna do another spin. Yeah, they're picking seventh, bro. Like, dude, this is
uh
bad. This is
no, it's
bad. This is
it's
not
not
good.
good. It's not
Like,
good.
I listen. Like, dude, it's bad when like the old heads are like, dude, why are they winning now? Like, this is the
No,
worst.
especially because everyone
Like
pretty universally
the whole
agrees.
Santa like the whole Philly fans throwing snowballs at Santa Claus was because the Eagles botched tanking.
Hmm.
That
Hmm.
whole thing happened because of that. Like, it's not like
No, there's especially when the universal hockey world is like, if the Flyers, as long as they get in the top five, like you can't mess it up. Basically, it's like there's like a definitive top five prospect pool that if you get in there, you're going to get somebody that's good and helpful. And unfortunately,
yeah,
they're
dude. It's
playing
to me.
themselves out of it.
I mean, like to me, it's like you need to get Mitch Cobb like Drysdale, like the Flyers Drysdale,
Draisaitl.
Drysdale, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like
You need to get him a center that's just going to feed him the puck. Like you look at why Draisaitl and McDavid are so good. Every time they're on the ice together and they're in the offensive zone, it's like McDavid creates a play and then the puck goes to the corner and Draisaitl's in there fishing it out and he's just getting it back to McDavid, getting it back to McDavid. Just like they succeed, like a lot of other teams succeed by just getting the puck to your best player, your most skilled player as much as you possibly can because they can create something that is dangerous and a scoring opportunity. And to have someone that can just fish the puck in and get it to Michkov, you're going to be a successful,
Yeah, and
successful
and
situation.
you're gonna have a lot of cap space, so all you need to do is just, if you want to recreate the Chicago Blackhawks or something, have
Hmm.
Taves and Kane, like get your Patrick Kane or Jonathan Taves, and then
Hmm.
you sign Marion, like a Marion Hossa type player to pair with like that,
Yeah.
like your core, I suppose,
And
like.
listen, there's a path, and you just hopefully they don't screw it up totally by
I
winning
mean, I
anything.
mean, if they really wanted to like rig it for the Flyers because they're like, okay, Flyers
Well,
appear
that'd
like
be
they could be
cool.
good, like
That'd be
we'll give,
nice.
or I don't know.
Excuse me. That would be nice, but
That would be nice.
we'll
You
see.
mentioned firing a coach though, and I want to briefly mention this just because, like, we're not going to talk about the Sixers for a while because they're an absolute joke right now.
Hmm.
Even though we agree with their strategy of tanking. Um,
They tank like no other, man. The Sixers, they do it right. They know how to tank. Shout out the Sixers. They are
oh,
locked in to the fifth worst
I
odds.
just simmed the lottery for the Sixers. They got the first pick, so there we
There you
go.
go. See? No, you look at the Sixers, they're locked into the fifth worst slot, which gives them like a 60% chance of keeping their pick, meaning they land in the top six. And they have like it's like what is it, like a 10% chance or 8% chance of getting one or something like that. It's not
See,
it's not bad.
it would be nice if we just see a headline: Josh Harris looking to sell the Sixers, and Silver rigs the draft for the Sixers to entice a buyer to move
Oh,
quickly on buying the team.
that would be perfect.
That would
We can
be
only
ideal.
dream.
But here's the basketball thing I want to talk about. I'm very curious about your take on this. Then we'll do football, then baseball. So the Denver Nuggets, a team you
Oh,
love to, a certain player on the Nuggets you like to rant about.
listen, he's
Uh,
very good.
you, you like to talk
Jokic is
about.
very good.
So they fired their coach and GM. I didn't know Calvin Booth, former NBA player, former like big man, played for a lot of teams.
Hmm.
Mostly as like a backup slash fringe starter. I think he was like on the Wizards and
Hmm.
like the Seattle Sonics, I recall. Their GM, they fired the GM and the coach.
Yeah,
Apparently, they
you know,
wanted to fire them sooner, but
I, I don't know what's going on in the NBA with that because some people are saying it's the owners being too cheap, and it's part of like the CBA argument where when you have the second apron with the players and stuff, and the owners don't want to pay the extra money to coaching or something like that. I don't know, but
yeah, but
to
they got
me,
to
it's
pay the coach regardless whether you fire him or not.
it's ludicrous. You get the Grizzlies who are in a playoff spot, fired their coach for like seemingly no reason, as well, and then you get this sort of thing where there's 4 games left in the regular season. The Nuggets were sitting like at the 4 seed, and there's like a 4-way tie for the 4 seed in the West. So that ranges 4 through 7 or whatever, 4 through 8. Um, and then you just fire the coach and the GM, and it just feels like, what are you doing there? Like, where's your head at? I can't rationalize that being a good idea at all. Like, did they? I saw people say, before the GM got also announced to be fired, that it was like, oh, they just want to fire the head coach, and they wanted to do it after this year anyways, but would have a harder time doing it if Jokic, dragged them to a conference final, and the last 3 years of Nuggets playoffs have been winning a championship, losing in the finals and going to the conference finals. Like, that would have been that's a difficult time to fire a coach because of that. Like, those are 3 really good seasons to just can a coach. So like, let's just do it now. But then they fire the GM. So then it's like, what the hell is the GM doing right now? Like, the GM at this point in the year is like not even looking at the current roster. Like, the GM during this time of the year is focused on the draft and focused on like potential free agents for next year. Like, their work for their work for this year's team has been done for probably a few weeks at this point. Like they don't need to. Like they're not doing anything to the current roster. So I'm really, really confused on why. You still haven't gotten
Well,
a clear answer either from anybody
according
as to
to
why.
Windhorst, apparently Malone, um, the whole organization is just miserable. That's what the vibes were terrible in Denver.
And is this gonna like uplift everybody? I guess.
Uh, well, apparently the players were very heated towards one another. There was a lot of infighting between the GM and the coach.
Mm-hmm.
It was just they created this toxic environment, and Stan Kroenke, who the owner, who also owns the Rams,
Yeah.
he, well, Michael, the Rams seem to be a very harmonious organization.
Is
He looks
that
at them
is that
and
so?
they both. Well, I mean, you don't really hear chaos within the. You don't see like Sean McVay once gets into a fist fight with Les Snead because apparently Calvin Booth and Mike Malone, they said it was so bad, like they probably would have gotten into a fist fight at one point.
Granted, they lost 4 in a row before they fired the coach, and they won their last 2 games. So I guess what do we know? I don't know.
This
But
is basically like if the 2023 Eagles fired Sirianni in like week 17, and then they fired Howie on top of it.
fired out.
I mean, is that what it kind of feels like?
No, yeah, kind of. Or maybe if they no, they couldn't have fired him this year. It would have been like 2023.
So Kroenke
Yeah.
owns the Rams, the Avalanche, and Arsenal. Now, I don't know. I know you don't know a lot about soccer. Follow that
I mean,
happens.
those are 3 pretty massive teams there.
Well, like Arsenal, like listen, if my buddy Zach was on our show, he would be calling them. They're basically a bunch of choking frauds, which they kind of,
Sure.
but they do finish very high every year in the standings. I mean,
It's a big
they
name. Like
beat
it's a big team.
Real Madrid in the first leg of the Champions League. By the way, Real
Hmm.
Madrid being like the heavy favorite to win the
Hmm.
Champions League, they're up
Yeah.
3-0 in their like in their
Whatever. Yeah.
series with them. In their series with them, so like Stan Kroenke, he has probably very high expectations for his teams. I, I would say
Yeah.
so. The fact that the Nuggets are like being highly dysfunctional, I mean, maybe it's better to send this message to the team of like, listen, we're not going to tolerate infighting, so we're going to get guys in here to build a better culture, and hopefully those guys will
Yeah,
follow
but
suit.
this isn't an off-season thing. Like, what are we doing here? Like,
Michael, they
like
probably
is
get
this gonna
bounced in the
save?
first round of the playoffs anyway.
Well, what if they don't? I don't know. Like, I don't know. I just think it's ludicrous to fire a coach this late in the year when you're kind of
I
maybe
mean,
ever.
I
You're gonna
heard
be
Mike
like,
maybe like Mike Malone. He does feel like a difficult guy to work with.
sure, but like you just won the finals and you were just in it again last year. Like, what are we doing? Like, can we see it through? Just see the year through? Like, not only, it's not like this year's a lost year for the Nuggets. They're in the middle of the Western Conference standings. They've been as injured as anybody else, and as far as actual good teams in the league goes. Jamal Murray's been hurt like all year. Michael Porter Jr.'s been hurt a lot this year. It's just feels like really all over the place in terms of that decision making.
Maybe
But
Stan Kroenke because he has like young whiz kid head coach, and I guess he's not a whiz kid anymore because I feel like he's been around for a while. But
yeah,
like Sean McVay, maybe he
he's
wants to
looking for someone like that.
maybe he wants to hire like a JJ Redick type head coach.
Yeah, Denver Nuggets explored trade involving Jamal Murray last offseason and Michael Porter Jr. this season. There you go. That report just came through. So there are clearly internally there's a big mess going on, but we will see how it proceeds. Do you want to move into the draft a little bit?
Yeah, so we talked about how wide open this NFL draft was looking with like who's going first, which I feel like where as long as I've been following the NFL draft, we usually know who the first overall pick's going to be within
Yeah,
like a couple weeks of the draft.
yeah, and we're pretty, I think,
And I think
certain.
it's pretty obvious right now that the Tennessee Titans plan on selecting University of Miami quarterback Cam Ward.
Yeah, yeah.
He would be the first University of Miami quarterback since I think Vinny Testaverde to go first overall. So, you know, there's
No,
that. That's that's
I
pretty,
think,
pretty good for the University of Miami.
yeah, and I like Cam Ward as a prospect. Honestly, I think he's got a lot of arm talent. He does not lack confidence, which is very important for a
I
quarterback
know
that's
you're
not
not going to like this comp because of who I'm going to comp him to, but just for a football argument, he does remind me a lot of Roethlisberger. Big guy, strong arm, can move a little
How
bit.
big is Cam Ward? I didn't think he was that big. Is he 6'2"? He's not huge.
But he looks bigger.
I think he's just a big boy. Yeah, he's not as big as Ben. Ben was 6'5". I don't know. I think it's just the effortless way he slings the ball down the field. It makes him play a little bit bigger than he is, I guess.
So what do you
But
think? Who do you think Who does he kind of remind you of?
I don't know because I've never seen someone like so calm, I guess I should say. Like it's obviously I've never seen anyone the way Cam Ward where he'll like kind of walk and then just like flick a ball 30 yards down the field and it's like, oh, like that's really something. And I don't think that will play as nicely in the NFL sometimes.
Mahomes
But
is 6'2".
yeah, Mahomes is so much more jumpy though. Like Mahomes is bouncing around. He's a little not erratic, but like he just moves all the time. And it's not like Kyler because Cam Ward doesn't run that much in comparison. He's not like you know,
Well, Cam
he's not
Ward's
gonna.
obviously he's a bit of a gunslinger. He's not afraid to sling the ball, put
Yeah,
it in tight spots.
it's almost like Rogers like kinda the effortless
Okay.
flick on his throws. Like it'll be interesting to see how he develops at the NFL level. I'm gonna be excited to watch him because I do think he's got some really good arm talent, and I hope that Tennessee has some good things cooking for it. But
I mean, they have Tony Pollard, Calvin
mhm,
Ridley, obviously where they're going to pick in the second round. A receiver's probably going to be there as well. Like I think I mean, for Tennessee, I mean, listen, man, like I would say of all the teams that were like a joke last year,
mhm,
right?
yeah,
We all made fun of the Giants. We made fun of the Browns. Bro, there was like an 8-week stretch with Will Levis as their starting quarterback where it was like the quarterback position led to them being as bad as they were.
yes,
It wasn't like the whole team was awful,
yeah, yeah.
including the quarterback. It was
No,
like
the
the
Titans.
quarterback.
Well, it was weird because last year we saw how many like it felt like the first year in a while where it was like there's so many bad teams in the NFL. It's a lot of teams with losing records, like bad losing records. But I would say the Titans kind of snuck up on everybody in terms of being the worst team in the league. Like for a while, I didn't think the Titans were gonna get the first overall pick. Like I just felt there was definitely a lot worse teams, like the Giants, for example, and you know, whatever. But the Titans all of a sudden just kind of falling into the first overall pick. It'll be interesting. I do agree with you. I don't think they're like starting from absolutely nothing. Like I do think there's some decent foundation there, and we'll see. We'll see. If depending on how good Cam Ward is, and that division, as shaky as the AFC South was last year, and I don't expect it to be too like strong this year. Again, it's probably going to be about the same. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where you start getting. I don't know how to put it, but like the next two picks, the Cleveland Browns at 2 and the New York Giants at 3, they're probably going to take two players, and it's just a matter of which one the Browns want, and then the Giants will just take the other one. Talking about Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter. I still kind of think the Browns are going to take Abdul Carter. I still think that in their mind, like an Abdul Carter, Myles Garrett edge rusher duo is about as lethal as it gets in the NFL. I think that not that the Browns again are any close to winning, especially with their quarterback situation, but getting those two to be your edge rusher, it almost will make your defense accidentally like pretty damn good. Like you would have to really try to build such a garbage roster to where Abdul Carter and Myles Garrett screaming off the edges isn't enough to like wreck games kind of consistently. Like they will cause a ton of problems for opposing defenses. And I really think the Browns should take Abdul Carter over Travis Hunter. I think it's a much better fit for them.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though, when you're with Cleveland, is you just invested a ton of money in Myles Garrett, right? And this is kind of the issue the Giants kind of have if they take Abdul Carter. Like, you're loading up an edge, and the rest of your team, like your offense, is still anemic, and in a league that is purely driven by offense. Man, it like I don't know. Like to me, I think they're going to take Travis Hunter because I think they just want a player. Like has a very unique skill set. Like I will say this. Like you look at Cleveland, like they re-up Jerry Jeudy. You draft Travis Hunter. Like the Cleveland Browns clearly do not have a quarterback of the future. They just signed Joe Flacco. So now their quarterback room is the creep who's not going to play. He's probably never going to play as a Brown ever again. Probably never going to play in the NFL ever again. If we're going to be honest,
yeah.
Kenny Pickett, who did listen, man. Kenny Pickett was on the field. He was on the field when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, but I think the Eagles were way more enticed by Tanner McKee's abilities in 1.5 games as the backup quarterback than they were with the 1.5 games they saw of Kenny Pickett.
Well, I mean, the Browns, like the Eagles got a 5th round pick for Kenny Pickett, and I don't know, that was probably and DTR. And that was probably the whole point of like anytime the Eagles go get someone like Kenny Pickett, like a backup quarterback that way, their goal is to trade them. Like that's kind of the goal. It's like, all right, we're gonna get Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, but they got less for him than they gave up for him.
Yeah, but they got like some decent, he played a little bit for you. He had to play and it was fine. And then you go ahead and you trade him away. I
think my point is for Cleveland's perspective is, it doesn't exactly, it wouldn't exactly excite me as a Browns fan to, we're going to put Kenny Pickett out there for half a season. He's probably going to suck. And then we're going to put in Flacco, or Flacco's going to start the season as our quarterback if he beats out Pickett, because like what are they going to draft, like Slough or Jackson Dart in the second round, or like you know what I mean? Like to me, it's like you draft Abdul Carter, like okay, like they're like the Browns are like an old team. They have a lot of older players on their team, like Denzel Ward. Garrett's kind of old.
Yeah,
like to me. And like on offense, like they're just bad, man. Like I don't know, like they should be trading these guys away to get picks and rebuild their team, But I don't know. Like I think like Travis Hunter, like to me in the city of Cleveland, like if you look at Cleveland sports right now, like Travis Hunter could be like the athlete of the city. Like to me, like if you're the Browns, you need to give your fans something to be excited about, and I don't know, like Abdul Carter. I think Abdul Carter's
That's
gonna be a great
exciting.
player,
I mean,
but like I don't know.
yeah. And then it puts you the Giants at 3, where they're going to take whoever the opposite one is. If I were the Giants, I think I'd also prefer Travis Hunter than Abdul Carter, just because I do think, you know, I think their defensive line kind of as a whole is already a pretty strong unit. Yeah, I think Abdul Carter kind of puts that over the top, but I think they could really value that versatility where you either are getting like a shutdown corner that plays a few snaps on offense that you already have Malik Neighbors at, or you pair Malik Neighbors with like another elite wide receiver or whatever. I think it would be smarter for him to play corner and then a decent bit of snaps on offense here and there. I think that would probably be his best bet as an NFL player. But, I think from the Giants' perspective, that would be more ideal for their situation as well. And I think that would be a pretty good fit for them. It would really help out their secondary
I
too.
would not be surprised if the Giants
Hmm.
try to trade the pick
Yeah.
because they need bodies. And I saw like the Giants fans are just highly irrational. They're like,
Hmm.
"Oh, we can win 9 games this year because like look at all these guys we had injured last year, and like Deontay Banks isn't. I mean, I don't know, Michael. Did you watch enough Deontay Banks to make you think he's good?
I don't think he's bad. Like I just think he's fine. But again, like every when you insert a guy like Travis Hunter, you insert a top flight corner, it just kind of makes everyone else better. It takes a lot of the stress off everybody else when he can go be locking down one side of the field. Point being is I don't think either the Browns or the Giants are going to be taking like Shador Sanders or any other quarterback in the first round. Unless they want
Correct.
to. I did see some potential rumors is that the Giants, if they take Travis Hunter at 3, could maybe trade back into the first round with like their 34th overall pick or whatever, trading into like the 20s perhaps to draft Shador if to have both of them. But I don't think that would make much sense considering they have 3 quarterbacks on the roster that they all signed 3 quarterbacks to their roster this offseason. So I don't expect them to draft a quarterback this year, but we will see.
Agreed. And I guess we'll just kind of go through. We'll just do the top five, kind of just our takes. The Patriots are really kind of in a rough spot because there's like 7 or 8 guys they could pick at that spot that I think are all kind of like in this like they're top 10, but no one's like top five.
Yeah, they really messed up their late season schedule when they beat who'd they beat
They
at the
beat
end
the
of the year?
Bills
The
in a
Bills, right?
meaningless game. It's the
That was
Joe Milton
bad.
game. Joe Milton balled out.
Yeah, that was really, really bad for them because Travis Hunter would have been a wonderful draft pick for the New England Patriots, but it does not seem like they're going to be getting him. And like you said, once you get past that top 3, there's kind of like I don't know, just a mixed bag of potential guys to
Like
draft.
Mason Graham with the short arms. I don't know, man. How many short arm D tackles do you know are like really good?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. The draft, I think, is really going to be up in the air this year. The Patriots could kind of use anybody, um, but I
Yeah.
guess,
I think the
yeah,
Patriots are going to take Ted McMillan. You see
the
all these
receiver.
contracts. Yeah, you see all these contracts wide receivers are getting, and
Hmm.
I think it might. I think we might see teams reach on wide receivers now because they don't want to pay them $35 million a year.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
like, and I think Ted McMillan. Like, I don't know. Like, you look at like the whole like their ideology is we need to get Drake May players on offense to help him so he doesn't so he can succeed. And like I don't know what Diggs has left in him, and Jalen Polk might turn out to be one of their worst draft picks in recent memory. He literally did nothing his rookie
Yeah.
year.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to keep up with the
And then
Pats
you have the
too.
Jags. I think the Jags are probably going to take Will Campbell.
Yeah. Yeah. They need an
Yeah.
offensive lineman, but All right, let's move into baseball.
Oh
So
boy.
the Phillies,
I think there's a lot of overreactions.
yeah, there's a lot of so I want to start with like my top concerns because we're what 14 games in, have a long season, but there's some things to be concerned about. My first general concern, I guess I'll give, is bullpen as a whole because I mean there's some things that I like, some things that I'm worried about, some things whatever. So my likes are Jose Alvarado looks very, very good. It's about as good as he's looked since the end of 2022 and that first month of 2023 before he got injured. And obviously the playoff run in between that got them to the World Series. Since then, where he was virtually unhittable, this is definitely as good as he's looked, where he clearly lost weight, so the velocity's back up. His command is not as wild. Um, but I just think that since it's not new, like, teams hitters didn't know what to do with his 95-mile-an-hour cutter when it first was like burst onto the scene. Teams were lost on how to, approach that at the plate. Teams now, I think, have a general approach, but he's about as good as he's looked since that, and it's a damn good pitcher. That's very, very difficult to hit. He's had some pretty surgical ninth innings, and any relief appearances over the last few days. Yesterday was no exception. Matt Strom, another very big positive. He's been one of the best relievers in baseball since he's come to the Phillies. He's a very unique pitcher where, you know, he was a starter when he first got here for a little
Yeah,
bit.
I think he's very Andrew Miller ish.
Like it was that stat before the Cardinal series that Corey Seidman put out. There's no other pitcher since 2023 to have like 155 innings, 2.6 ERA, whip under like point 0.7. It was like a point 0.6 something whip, and he had 11 strikeouts per nine. There's no pitcher that has that many innings, that low of an ERA, that low of a whip, and that many strikeouts per nine. If you round down on everything to like 150 innings to 2.7 ERA, whatever, the only other pitcher that falls in that category is Paul Skeens. So Matt Strom's been very, very good. I do think he's still maybe a little bit in spring training mode as to why the velocity's down a little bit. I hope he's not totally experiencing dead arm, but that kind of plays into my concern that I'll bring up. And then Orion Kerkering, he's been largely pretty good. I do think it would benefit him to learn a third pitch because the book on how to, get around him is definitely out. And if the command is like slightly off, it definitely makes his outings a little bit more stressful. However, more often than not, he's pretty nasty and he's just getting outs pretty consistently. So those three are great. Where my concerns are is that you're still, waiting for Jordan Romano to maybe get fully healthy, whatever, is that I don't want to burn out those three guys by halfway through the season or by August or something just because they have to throw as much as they have to throw, just to get through and win a ball game. Like just because you got to throw every day, Strom and Alvarado and Kerkering to feel like you have a chance to win. So the first concern with that is Jordan Romano, who his last two appearances have been very, very good, but prior to that has not been so good. And the biggest issue with that has been his velocity. His fastball velocity before the Braves outing was sitting at like 94, which is concerning. If he's only throwing 94 and, his command is a little off, it's going to be a rough outing. It's what we saw against the Dodgers. It's what, you saw after that. But I think that, he is coming back from an arm injury that I think for the time being, you're just going to have to give him extra rest between outings, like a little more than you probably want to and feel comfortable with doing usually. But you're just going to have to kind of do it to get the best out of him until you can get like back-to-back days that he throws and he's sitting like 96 with his fastball. Like the Cardinals outing, he threw 3 fastballs that were like 96, 95, and 94. And like he was fine. He gave up a hard double play, but it was a double play. He got out of the inning. It was a ground ball. You can't really complain about it. So I think that's a guy that as the season progresses and the Phillies are really careful with him, especially with giving him his rest between outings, I think that we can see the pros start to turn up and he becomes a more reliable leverage arm. But for the time being, I think they really got to be careful with him. And I guess to finish out the bullpen, you want one other guy to pop as like a guy that you can pretty comfortably trust. They tried Joe Ross. At this point in his career, Joe Ross is definitely not a guy that should be pitching back-to-back days and should not be pitching really high leverage spots. He's your middle reliever. He can throw 2 innings if you got to pull your starter in the 4th. He can, you throw him in to maybe get through an inning that your starter only goes 5 innings, something like that. That's what Joe Ross is. They tried him in some high leverage. It blew up in his face in the Braves series twice. Was not ideal. Jose Ruiz has been kind of himself, which is just a solid arm. If he's on a bit of a heater, I think you can run him for some more high leverage innings. But the most intriguing arm in the bullpen is Carlos Hernandez, the guy that they acquired right before spring training came to a close. Apparently, they were working with him on tightening up his curveball, and it's why he only threw once like early and then didn't throw for almost like 6 games or something like that, because I think they were working with him before they want to throw him back into a game. He pitched in that late night Braves game, and it was surgical. It was a very, very good outing. He was sitting like 98. That curveball had ridiculous bite to it. It was a really, really good outing. That is a guy that could potentially be a big factor for this bullpen if they can really get his secondary pitches up to par with this good velocity fastball.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously the back end of the Phillies bullpen, they just lack depth.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, let's just be completely, honest with this team right now. Like they're obviously a playoff team, but
Yes.
you have a lot of players who are underachieving right now or off to slow starts. Even though Bryce homered against the Braves, hit a clutch home run. If you look at his baseball savant, like how he started versus like the last 10 years of his career in terms of like hitting balls hard, like he's down. And he is 32 years old. He is, he's playing first base every day. And you kind of like, I don't know, Michael, like we're all bitching about Alec Bohm and Brandon Marsh, but they kind of are who they are. Phillies need their stars to show up, like the Dodgers, the Braves. Like we're worried about like, I don't know, the 7th or 8th most important hitters on your team.
I
And I
will
think Bryce
say
Harper's going to
this.
come around. I think he's going to come around. I just think that, you know,
Looking at Bryce's Savant page, it's interesting because his average exit velocity is the same currently that it was. This is the same this year as it was last year. The percentile's not as good just because that's early in the season, and there's some guys that are probably like way over above what they're going to be. The issue with Bryce is the launch angle sweet spot, which is like how often are you hitting it between? I want to say the sweet spot is like 9 degrees and like 20 degrees, something like that, where it's like that strong line drive with backspin, like hitting it in that perfect launch angle where that's where most of the home runs are hit. That's where most doubles are hit, all that sort of stuff. His percentile on that is pretty low, meaning he's getting under the ball and he's topping the ball more than he usually does. So that's not too surprising considering how much he's been kind of swinging and missing with fastballs early in the year because he's just every year he goes through a stretch of time where it feels like he can't hit a fastball, and we all get worried, and then everything is fine again. And I don't know. I think we're just par for the course for Bryce. When I look at, I did a Savant deep dive the other day, and I have them pulled up. Bohm, while frustrating with his attitude and him still moping at 28 years old or whatever, 29 years old, the fact of the matter is that he's definitely getting unlucky. It's definitely a large dose of not good luck. It's over his last 10 balls that he's hit over 100-mile-an-hour exit velocity. He only has one hit, and the expected batting average on balls hit over 100 miles an hour is like 700, and he's hitting 100 on his last 10. Like, that's just unfortunate because you're hitting it straight at a guy because it's, hanging up, whatever it is. It's just unfortunate. That's going to turn at some point. I do think it would pay for him to be a little bit more patient at the plate, but he is still hitting the ball kind of hard when he's doing it. It's just, it does feel like, though, when he gets up to the plate at times, he's like, I want my at bat to be done as quick as possible. Whether I get a hit or I get out, I want to be up and I want to be out of this batter's box as fast as possible. And I think that's a bit worrisome. I'd like him to just kind of be, it's not even, I don't want to even say selective because he is still swinging at good pitches usually, but it's like sometimes you just got to see a pitch, man. And teams know that you hit the ball into the ground so much that they're going to give you a decent pitch to hit when a runner's on in a spot because they just trust that you're going to hit it into the ground. And that's not good. Brandon Marsh. Brandon Marsh is a very, very interesting one because you look at his Baseball Savant page and it's not great. Not great at all. But I think the biggest concern, and if you go deeper as well, is his rate of quality of contact. He is topping the ball at a significantly higher rate than he ever has as a Philly. He's topping the ball 47.8% of the time, meaning 47.8% of the time, Brandon Marsh is just beating the ball straight into the ground. That to me feels like there's an issue with his swing that can be fixable. Like, that's not like, I don't know. That's just because you look at, since he's come to the Phillies, his top percentage has been 30%, 30%. Last year was 27%, and this year it's almost 48%. Like, that's ridiculous. That is not like, that is an outlier. That is not what he actually is. And to me, that feels like something that can be fixed because his barrel rate is pretty low, especially compared to last year. It was up at 10%. It's down at 4%. So I think he's just kind of missing the balls. His chase rate is not too terrible. It's like in the 61st percentile. Brandon Marsh still walks a lot, which is very good.
The whole team's walking a lot.
But he's
That's
just
not
in the bottom
the Phillies. So,
percentile.
like, the whole thing about the Phillies with the chase rate and not doing a great job of getting on base. Like, I think
They're not chasing as much this year, which is
they're
good.
not chasing as much, but the problem is I think Nick Castellanos said this last week when they beat the Dodgers was like he said something to the effect of like, when you go up there and you want to stand there and take pitches, like you do when you do have to swing, it does affect your ability to drive the ball because if you're going up there with the intention to not swing the bat,
Mm-hmm.
pitchers are going to pick up on that. And I
Yeah.
think you're kind of seeing that when they get runners in scoring position. Like they're either so overly aggressive that they wind up striking out, or they're just not aggressive. Pitchers are throwing balls right down the middle. They're taking them. They get in bad counts,
Mm-hmm.
and they're either like what you're mentioning, not squaring up the ball. They're not controlling the at bat. And you know, listen, the Phillies are one of the most analytical teams in baseball. Is this an issue where is there paralysis by analysis? Are they over analyzing everything and guys are just going up there with like thinking way too much and not just reacting?
Mm-hmm.
Is that an issue? I think. Listen, I will say this: the Phillies have played Justin Crawford in left field in AAA his
This
last
is
four
their
games,
yeah
and he's never played left field before in a minor league game. The minor league All Star game
the
doesn't count.
futures game he
The
played in.
futures game does not count.
Yeah.
So the Phillies obviously, if they're gonna have to call up Justin Crawford, they're gonna send down Johan Rojas. But and listen, Johan
Probably.
Rojas this week committed probably one of the worst errors I've seen in a very long time. It was
Yeah, that was just
comical,
rough. Yeah, that was rough.
but he's not like he's been atrocious this year. Where now you're like people are like should demote him because of that. Like I don't know,
No,
man.
like I
Like
don't know. Like he barely
that's
played.
that's dramatic.
You can almost make an argument that he should be playing more, to be honest with you, because he's
Like
like,
I would have to agree that
yeah,
he's has 13 plate appearances, 10 at bats, 4 hits,
that's
one stolen base. I mean, yeah, like
three
Michael,
walks.
I agree with you.
Like,
Like Brandon Marsh being like completely lost at the plate.
yeah, like I wouldn't be. For example, Matthew Liberatore is on the mound for the Cardinals today, and the Phillies. A couple things. Talk about the lineup as a whole. Bryson Stott leading off, I think, is awful. I think that's a really bad idea, and I hope that doesn't become a habit. You want to look at a baseball savant page that's terrible. It's Bryson Stott's. The only thing he doesn't do badly is chase. Everything else, he walks at like an average rate, and the quality of contact is in the tubes. Fifth percentile in X WOBA, fourth percentile in X batting average, fifth percentile in X slugging, first percentile in average exit velocity and hard hit rate. And he's just not hitting the baseball hard. Swinging a pool noodle for sure. I don't want that guy leading off, like at all. I don't want that guy getting an extra at bat over someone else. What I do like, though, that they did the last 2 days, and it's continuing again today, is Harper followed directly and immediately by Kyle Schwarber. I said it since the spring. If they were going to flip up the lineup and move Schwarber out of the leadoff, the only way that I really will accept it is if he's hitting directly behind Bryce Harper. Both those guys hit left-handed pitching well enough that we shouldn't totally be scared of because they put in a lefty. And you just need someone behind Bryce that is a threatening bat like at all times. There's always the threat of the home run. There's the threat of just he's going to work a good at bat and maybe walk. And he's been your best hitter this year. Like it's just kind of what it is. And he's been one of your best hitters since he's got here. So they've been doing it the last few days and they're doing it again today, but it is a lefty lineup. So Bryson Stott's actually not in the lineup. Kepler's also getting a day off because he's been struggling since his hot start. But the lineup we have, Trey Turner leading off, Bryce Harper hitting second, Kyle Schwarber hitting third. To me, that's exactly what I want. Nick Castellanos hitting fourth. That's also exactly what I want. Even though he might weirdly have some mental issues with hitting fourth.
Yeah, well, I don't understand why he has mental issues saying fourth when he's literally been batting third or cleanup almost his entire
In
career
2023, he was
prior to
like
coming to Philadelphia.
raking out of the four hole in 2023 as well. So I don't know. But anyways,
I don't get
Nick
it.
Castellanos fourth, JT Realmuto five, who JT has also been pretty unlucky. He's hitting like 230, but his expected batting average is like close to 290. Like he's also hitting the ball pretty hard right at people. JT hitting fifth, Bohm hitting sixth, and Mundo Sosa hitting seventh, Brandon Marsh hitting eighth, playing left field, and Johan Rojas hitting ninth, playing center field. So we're getting some Rojas at bats today. We're also getting Sosa at bats today. Giving Kepler the day off, I think, is a good thing. Having him as a pinch hit option late in the game as well, I think, is a good thing. I really like this lineup. I like this lineup a lot. Even if there's a righty on the mound, I wouldn't change it other than, I guess, putting Stott in for Sosa and like Kepler in for Rojas or whatever. But that is how I want the top four of the lineup to look. I want the
It's
top
really gonna,
four to be
man.
Turner, Harper,
Michael,
Schwarber,
it's looking
Castellanos.
it's looking like to me that you might see the Phillies as we get deeper in the year. If Bohm, it sounds like I think Bohm is going to play out of his little slump.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not so sure about Marsh. I do kind of get this vibe that like the trio of Bohm, Stott, and Marsh are like our new like they're sort of like the blame point on the Phillies because we're going to talk about the positives after this.
Yeah.
And they all happen to be starting pitchers. And like I guess like I think they're going to like that trio because I think the problem and you've mentioned this before. The problem with the Phillies is how can I put this delicately? There's like a frat boy atmosphere, and the poster children for the bro culture are Bohm, Stott, and Marsh. And like now they're taking like now it's sort of like it's time to knuckle down. We need to take this more seriously. Like you see Kyle Schwarber, the consummate veteran, off to a hot start. JT's off to his best defensive start in years. Now he's fully healthy. Bryce
Castellanos
Harper's
is
going to
looking
work
way
out of
good.
his issues because he's Bryce Harper. I trust him to do that. When I
Yeah.
say issues, I
Castellanos
mean
has
like
been good.
I mean issues as in like I don't. We're not paying Bryce Harper to hit singles. In other
Right.
words,
Right.
you
Right.
know, Castellanos, I expect him to get like 80, 90 RBIs. That's what he does. The problem is it's like is like for Alec Bohm, like you saw with Christopher Morel the other night when he took his bat and slammed it onto the ground. The umpire threw him out of the game.
Right.
Rightfully so, because what if he breaks his bat? It ricochets
Oh
and
yeah. Yeah.
like you can't be doing that.
No,
You're
it's just you're
professional.
you're a professional athlete. You're a grown man too. You're not a kid anymore. Like I know that you care, and it's good that he cares. Like I will always appreciate an athlete that cares, and especially if they show it. But it's like I can't have you every time you ground out, like throwing your head up, looking like you want to cry because of it. And I think the luck will turn around with him, and I really hope it does. Like you said, Marsh might have some more issues. I really do think Marsh could benefit from like not playing for a few days in a row. Like not in like a benching, but in like a all right, dude, like you're hitting the top of the baseball more often than anything. Does he need to start trying the torpedo bat? Potentially. I
I
don't
thought
think
he
he
already
jams
is using the
himself, but
torpedo bat.
Marsh has not been. I don't think he jams himself, so that might not be as good, but you're giving your barrel just a little fatter sweet spot. I don't know. I don't know. But I think there's issues that can be resolved with him that I just think need to be kind of worked through at this point. I don't know. I think there is still light at the end of his tunnel. I just think you got to give it some more attention as opposed to just having him keep playing through this and hoping he figures it out kind of on his own. But
Let's talk about the
positive sign.
positives.
Positive
All right,
sign.
so Saiwan Walker. I'm sorry, Taiwan Walker.
Dude,
Yeah,
love
where's
this
that? Yeah,
rotation.
did I say as a joke? Did I joke around that he was going to pitch better because there's no way he could be as bad as he was last year?
I mean, listen, when I saw him in the spring and I was like, the stuff does not look as bad.
Who is like so? Who is like the Sixers equivalent to Taiwan is like Tobias? I would say everyone hates on him for no hates on him because
the contract.
the contract, but like the Eagles comp, like I don't like who's like the Eagles comp for him.
The Eagles don't have
But
anybody.
they don't really have a guy. I don't know.
No,
Like
they don't
Bradbury
screw up
last
that
year, I
bad.
suppose, was like that guy.
Yeah, like Taiwan gets a bad hand because he was your fifth starter and everyone like hated him. And it's like, dude, most teams don't even have three good starters. We have four, and you're bitching about the fifth. Like, can we pump
Well,
the brakes
now
for a second?
once one of them becomes healthy, they're going to have five.
That's what I'm saying. So you have like he got booed on opening day, and that was really messed up. But he's gone what 10 in the third innings, and he
You
hasn't
give
given
him
up
like
a
a
run yet.
quiet golf clap. You don't boo him. Like that's
Yeah,
just
that was wrong. That was really wrong. He's thrown 10 in the third innings. He hasn't given up a run. His walks went up a little bit in the Braves start, but most encouraging thing about Taiwan Walker, the ball is not being hit hard. The average exit velocity on the balls that are being put in play are just not that hard. And again, that's kind of always been Taiwan's MO. was some
Well, he's
soft
pitching like
contact.
Mets Taiwan Walker, which is what you paid him for in the first
Right,
place.
like you're paying for him to be a guy that's just when the ball gets put in play, it's going to be hit on the ground and it's not going to be hit hard, and that's what you're asking for,
Oh
and
God,
it's what you've gotten.
Could you imagine like Taiwan has like a weak ground ball to like Bohm and Bohm throws it into the stands? People are going to
Right.
defend Taiwan Walker. They're going
Yeah.
to defend him.
Yeah. So what makes it intriguing is you mentioned when they get healthy, and that's Ranger Suarez. If Taiwan's pitching the kind of way that he is, because Taiwan stuff does not translate for him to be like a traditional bullpen piece. Taiwan cannot just move to the bullpen and be like, you know,
No, no, it's real with the Phillies depth issues and like Tanner Banks stinks.
right,
Strom has had health concerns, not like basically like you're worried because he
like
used him
that
so
arm.
much. He's gonna, are you gonna burn him out? You don't
No,
want to burn out Alvarado.
no,
Joe Ross is kind of like that was sort of like a you know Hail Mary signing.
right.
Like Ranger Suarez pitching 2 innings out of the bullpen, like an Andrew Miller, could actually greatly
Yeah,
benefit
I
this
think when
team.
the playoffs roll around, he'll be assigned to the bullpen. But listen, he's not going to be able to
Like
pitch out of the bullpen.
Wheels is going to have like a 2 week like injured list stint to like not wear him out. You
Maybe. I mean, I
know,
don't think they're not. My thing is, Rangers not going to the bullpen the regular season. It's just not happening unless he's like brutal as a starter because
I mean, you're
he's in a
showing me. I mean, you're
contract.
also showing me these Andrew Painter like advanced stat overlays, like
John, I
pitching,
am just telling
like
you that
pitching
man,
Jesus. Like,
Scott
what?
Boras,
You're not going to play him?
Rangers just not going to pitch in the bullpen in the regular season. Like it's just not going to happen. Boris isn't going to let it happen, and like he's a free agent this year. He wants to prove that he can be a starter, like so he can get paid as a
Well,
starter.
it's not exactly a good look when you're starting off the year on the injured list and you looked injured last year.
Well, my point
And
is
I
with
and
the
I love
going.
Ranger. I'm just saying, like,
Yeah, listen, when the playoffs come around, he'll be in the bullpen, and then everyone can like relax, I guess. But for the regular season, he's definitely going to be a starter. They're going to try it at least, unless it's terrible. What I think they're going to do though is, and I think it might not be a bad idea, is you kind of piggyback his starts. Like you did it a little bit you did it with Zach Eflin in, well, no, you did it with Ranger in 2022. You did that with Ranger in 2022. You were piggybacking his starts um, into the playoffs, and then he really was coming out of the bullpen. He was the Swiss Army knife once the playoffs actually showed up. So I think when he first gets back, it could be pretty useful to have him throw like 3-4 innings to kind of really ease his arm into it. And then it's like, okay, Taiwan, I need you to take down these 2 innings for us. And now it's like, okay, you got to start out of your two guys. I think that's something that can be pretty beneficial because like you're not going to DFA Taiwan to add Ranger
well,
back,
no, ideally, well, no, I'm thinking more like with all these pitching injuries going around in baseball, like the Yankees' rotation is garbage and their best pitcher's hurt. Like, you know what I mean to tell me with Taiwan's contract, like if he's pitching well, he's got 1 year after this. If there's a team that has a relief pitcher that's not like, you know,
You'd have to attach prospects to him. That contract's still bad enough that
just say
no
you'll eat.
teams.
No, you'll just eat part of the contract. Because here's the thing, Michael. There's no like. This is my thing. If Taiwan, let's say Taiwan has around like early July has an ERA around 3. We already seen the Phillies will trade a everyday player to acquire another everyday player to position a weakness.
I hear you.
Unfortunately, it was Austin Hayes last year was that guy.
I just don't. I don't know if we're gonna see a team that's like beckoning for Taiwan as opposed to
Like if the
like.
Cardinals are in first place in like late June with their pitching
I
issues,
mean, we're not getting Ryan Helsley for Taiwan
no,
Walker.
you're not. I mean like another guy, someone that's better than Jose Ruiz because he stinks.
I hear you. I think that's a hard. I don't know. I think that's a hard trade to make. If you're trading away Taiwan, the other team is like doing you a favor. I don't think Taiwan is going to be super coveted kind of no matter how well he pitches. I think if you're going to have to trade him away, you're going to have to attach somebody to him. Um, and I think honestly, there's going to be more value with him as like a little
I mean, the
piggyback with
Phillies got two
Ranger.
decent pitching prospects for Gregory freaking Soto.
Well, that's because the Orioles were relief pitchers are a little bit different. Gregory Soto had no contract attached to him that was egregious. Like that's also part of it. I don't know. I think that there's a strong benefit to running a 6-man rotation eventually this year, and even if Wheeler doesn't like it, you can pitch Wheeler on regular rest but just juggle everything else to where it works. So like, Wheeler, say it's Wheeler, Luzardo,
I just
Nola,
think it's a terrible idea
Sanchez.
if you bring up Andrew Painter and make him a reliever to start his career.
Yeah,
And
I
you,
don't think they're going to do that. I think if they call him up, they would make him a starter and make him a part of
like
like a 6-man
like
rotation.
what they're probably like. I hate to say it, the Phillies are probably going to wind up doing is they're going to let Ranger walk, and then Andrew Painter next year will be in the starting rotation.
Yeah. I mean, I think Ranger, if he pitches like decent enough in the regular season and the normal goodness that he gives in the playoffs, Ranger's going to get a pretty massive contract, and the Phillies are definitely not going to foot that bill, unfortunately. So, but I mean, that's the whole point of why you got Luzardo. Like getting Luzardo and like signing Sanchez to that contract, like you were preparing for Ranger leaving. Like, it's not like they're going to have this massive hole when Ranger leaves, especially at Painter. There's no hole there. Regardless, we got off topic. The rotation positives. Taiwan's been nice. See what Ranger gets back, what they do. But Wheeler's been himself dominant. Christopher
So,
Sanchez,
so do
you've
you want to
seen the
talk
benefits
about
with him.
one player we haven't really discussed, and he's not off to the best start? Is Aaron Nola?
Yeah, sure. Um, yeah, he's the only starter he's not pitching terribly, but he's not pitching like
He's the
well
Tobias
either.
Harris of the Phillies.
Yeah, he's getting no run support, which doesn't help, but his velocity is just down again, and it's sitting at like 90-91, which I think they need to maybe limit his durability in terms of like, oh, he'll throw right around 200 innings again for the sake of bumping up the velocity a few ticks. Because when you're a guy that relies on like just command and stuff, and as you get older, the stuff does not stay as good. Like the curveball is not as dominant as it once was, and the command is ever so slightly off. Like your stuff not being that good, meaning your fastball at like 91, it's going to be hard to have success in that way. You need your fastball to be up closer to 93 to kind of get away with it the way Nola pitches. So I think that maybe telling him to kind of reach back and shoot for higher velocity on his fastball, and maybe it'll limit his innings throughout the course of the year where he's not going to throw 200, but he'll throw like 180. I think that can be beneficial. I think that's something that is worth trying, because him going out there every fifth day and giving you like 5 innings ish of baseball that you're hoping doesn't kind of unravel every time. It's a risky line to kind of tightrope and walk down, but I don't know.
I just think that like to me, do you think Aaron Nola is a guy that when he doesn't get run support, he gets flustered on the mound? He seems to get easily flustered by things that are completely outside of his control.
I just think,
Like the pitch clock issue he had a couple years ago, and
yeah, I
when
think
you hear
there's
his
part of
teammates
it.
talk about him, you hear about how he doesn't like when he has to wear new socks. He has to break them
Hmm.
in by wearing them every day for several weeks when he plays. Things
Yeah,
like
I
that.
think,
You're like, at some point, you gotta kind of sit him down and be like, dude, like the runs are gonna come. Just worry about. And listen, his last start, I think that's what happened. He still pitched well. Just he got zero run support.
yeah, it's just he couldn't, he walked in a run, and it's like you can almost never walk in a run as a starter. There's like almost never an excuse for that. Like that just can't happen. Um, Especially him, a guy that's never really had issues with walking guys. I don't know. I don't know. I think that a lot of his
You seem
outings look the
you seem
same.
you seem frustrated by him.
It's
I
because it's frustrating to watch him pitch. Where it's like, okay, the first 3 innings of this outing looks absolutely lethal. Like this is vintage Nola. He's as good as he's ever looked. And then it's like you nibble a little bit and you walk a guy, and then you give up some kind of Babbitt bloop single or something, and then it's like the impending doom of him leaving one out over the plate that can get cranked for a homer, and it's like all of a sudden the outing sucks because you're 4 1/3 in and you just gave up 3 earned on a homer, and it's like I have to pretend like it didn't happen, and it makes it so much worse because you're not getting any run support. So I don't know. I'd like to see the offense start hitting when he pitches. I think he got a tough draw in the Cardinals game, considering they probably didn't land in St. Louis till 4 a.m. after that rain
Did
delay of the
Bo really
Braves
say
game.
they got unlucky because they landed late? That's why they sucked.
I mean, I don't know if Bohm said that, but like, it doesn't surprise me, to be honest with you. I mean, you tell me, man. That game didn't finish till 1 a.m. They probably didn't get to St. Louis till conservatively like 4 a.m. It was probably closer to 5. And then you got a game the next day against a team that didn't even play the day before. That's just a tough draw. That's a tough draw. Like their at bats look like a team that had just landed at 4 o'clock in the morning the previous day. So I think that, you can chalk that up to that a little bit. But, Nola's next start, they're going to just need to score some runs. And we'll see. Listen, if he's pitching from ahead, the Phillies have a 3-run lead or something for him. Maybe he grooves and he gives you 6 scoreless or 7 and he gives up a run or something like that. Because I know that there's no way that pitcher's just zapped out of him and it's not in there. But it would be nice to see sooner rather than later from him.
Yeah. So you talked about the Phillies lineup. They're going to have Bohm. Let me ask you this. This is the last thing, then we'll close out the show. Is they have Edmundo's playing second day, but he's batting 8th. I know he's kind of cool.
7th.
7th.
Right?
He's batting 7th, excuse me. Johan Rojas is batting 9th.
9th. Yeah.
Marsh is batting 8th. I mean, we know Edmundo, like obviously like the fans want just cut, bench, demote, whatever with Bohm to have Sosa play every day at third. And let me just I'm just going to ask you this. Like, is Edmundo Sosa an everyday player?
I think at this point in his career, especially this year, he really cut down. I know it's early, but he really cut down on chasing because that was always his big issue is that he just chases up the wazoo. And maybe he totally kind of nipped it at this point. But, if we remember when Trey Turner pulled his hamstring and missed 6 weeks, those first like 4.5 weeks, Edmundo Sosa was on fire. And everyone was like, oh my God, like he should just stay in the lineup, blah, blah, blah. And then the last like week and a half before Trey got back, Sosa really cooled off. And it was like, okay, like this is why this guy's not an everyday player.
Well, I have his baseball reference pulled up. So in 2021, he was a pseudo everyday player because he played 113 games. And he had 3.2 wins above replacement with a 735 OPS. That's respectable.
Solid,
that's like
especially as dude, if you're a starting shortstop putting up those offensive numbers, like you're a very solid shortstop. That's like a top like.
And then he was absolutely terrible the following year with the Cardinals. And famously then he went to the Phillies, and he was like our like backup extraordinaire. He had the clutch hit in the playoffs against St. Louis. And he kind of became like a fan favorite. And then he's been a backup. In 2023, he played 104 games, kind of what you said, like guys were getting hurt.
Yeah.
And, he was not really like a 719 OPS, 0.6 WAR, not great. Last year, he had a 2.3 WAR in 90 games, but, a lot of like 249 at bats. Like, I don't know, 249 at bats, 2.3 WAR, Michael. If you played 500 bats, you double the WAR, you think in theory.
No,
Like,
listen,
I think he should be the starting third baseman until I don't know. Like, that's
until
the
what?
thing.
Like you cannot play Bohm to like see if he's gonna figure it out. You know what I'm saying? Like the thing with Sosa, I would like him in the lineup every day in various
He's not
ways. I don't
slamming his
think
bat. He seems to be a well
I
liked
don't think he should
teammate.
be the everyday third baseman, but I do think he should be in the lineup multiple times a week. Like whether it's him playing second, him playing third, him playing the outfield because they're clearly not afraid of doing that anymore. I think there's places for him. You know, when there's a lefty on the mound, he should absolutely be in the lineup, no, like somewhere. Um, you know, if Marsh, Stott, and Bohm are all going to be struggling, maybe you kind of rotate, giving them a day off every now and again, um, and letting Sosa kind of, you know, just play wherever he's got to play. I think if he was on like I don't know, he could be a starting shortstop somewhere in this league for sure. Like he could be a starting like top, like we said, like 12 to 15 shortstop in baseball somewhere in the league. Like someone could use him. Here, I think his role is pretty perfect. It's your Swiss Army knife defensively that is going to give you good at bats and has shown that he can hit better against right-handed pitching. That I think he's worthy of playing almost every day. And I think that, you can just find a place for him. I don't think there's one position he should play every day because that means you're sitting someone every day that you don't want to be. But I think you can kind of rotate where he's at. And I don't think his defense is going to take a huge hit because of it. But, you just to have his bat in there and kind of ride it as
What
long
if
as
he
it
hits like
goes.
2 home runs today, Michael? It's gonna be like it's gonna be like a fever pitch. It's gonna be like
Well,
F
listen,
home.
I just don't think he can play. I just don't think he's going to play every day. Like if he hits 2 home runs today, maybe he should be in the lineup tomorrow, but in left because you're going to give, you know, Kepler the day off again, or left because you're going to give Rojas, he's not going to be in the lineup, or maybe you put him in center and you give Marsh the day off, or maybe if Bohm goes 0 for 4 also, you give Bohm the day off. I don't know. You rotate it, you figure it out. I think it's not something that you're going to have as a set decision, but I think it's something that's worth kind of shaken out throughout because of how good he's been to start the year. But yeah, big fan of Edmundo and what he brings to the team. But anyways, everybody,
Well, that's it for our show today, guys. But
that
thank
is
you
our
for tuning
show.
in. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, what's left of it. Stay dry if it's raining near you.
Mm-hmm.
We are part of the Fired Up Sports Network of shows. Please check out other Fired Up Sports Network podcasts like the TheP-LotPod, Water Cooler Talk, Bell Smashers, Phillies Sports Love and Pain, Drunk on Broad, Beer Battered Sports, and the Fired Up Sports Show, which are available on all major podcasting hosting sites and social media. Also, check out Mark Ramos' Roundup on firedupsports.com, which breaks down the happenings going on with all your favorite local teams.